Have you ever had a client that just won't follow your processes and procedures for whatever reason? Maybe they're calling you after hours when, for things that aren't emergencies, or maybe they're just not following the support procedure or calling directly to the owner if the call wasn't answered in the first ring or something crazy like that, right? We've all had clients that just refuse to follow the process or procedure for one reason or another. If this is you, today's video should be right up your alley. My name is Adam Hanneman. Welcome to Ramblings of a Geek. I've been in the MSP space for the better part of a couple of decades, and I have absolutely seen plenty of situations where a client just wouldn't follow the procedure for whatever reason or another, right? So let's head out in the ramble. Whenever I talk about this with MSPs, there's a few scenarios that seem to be pretty common, right? It's really the client that emails or calls a member of the staff directly. The client that calls after hours for emergency help when it's clearly not an emergency, right? I like to think back of the time when I had a client call me on a Sunday trying to get help for a mail merge issue. They're trying to learn how to do a mail merge for something they were going to do during the week, and they just happened to want to work on a Sunday. So they thought calling me and my family time to have me help them with some mail merge help was an appropriate thing to do, and I'll let them know, hey, no, this is a thing that can wait till tomorrow. I'll help you tomorrow, not today, right? It's that kind of stuff, right? And the other one is the client that doesn't pay their bill and they get frustrated that they're on credit hold, right? And they want you to help them even though you haven't been paying their bill on a regular basis, right? So those are some common things. Usually when I kind of lay these things out, the MSPs I'm talking to are like, yeah, those are the things I'm running into, right? And of course, I'm sure there's other things that I haven't covered or whatever, but I think that today's video should kind of bring you in the right direction for trying to solve for some of these things in your business. So before we get into some of the meat and potato strategies, I want to talk to my small MSPs first, because it's important that there's a couple things that they should be thinking about and handling as early as possible within their business. So the first one is that you need to have an email address for support that's not your name at yourcompany.com, right? You need to have a support at, a help at, or whatever email address to make it obvious that this is where you email support tickets, right? If you need help, this is where you email, right? That's how this is. Even if it just forwards right to your email box while you're getting started, that's fine. But demarcate your email address from getting help from your company, right? Have that built out so that way it's a little bit easier to separate that as you grow your business. Similar to the email address, you should have something very similar for your phone number too. You want to demarcate your personal cell phone number from your business number as early as possible. Plenty of MSPs I've talked to as they've grown up their business have to get rid of their cell phone number to convert that to the main business number because they did this in reverse, right? So if you are starting an MSP today or you have a smaller MSP already, sign up for a Google Voice number or some other number that you can port later into another phone system or whatever to, again, demarcate your personal phone number from your business number as early as possible. So that way, when it comes time to do that more officially, it's a whole lot easier, right? Then you publish your support at and your business number as for all of your ticketing and supporting and all those kinds of things. Those are then separated so that way when time comes, you can redirect them to a different path without having to change your own personal stuff. So let's presume you've taken care of those two things, right? You got your phone number set, your email address set, cool. So what do you do next, right? Well, the biggest thing for me is I think it's important to set the expectations all along the way and make it painfully obvious what the expectations for the clients are and what they should expect from you, right? Most issues that you have with another human being in your lifetime are going to be from mismatched expectations. You were expecting X, they were expecting Y, and there's the clash in the middle, right? So when you have a support process that you want them to follow, make sure you set it as early as possible and make sure you reinforce it, right? So let's talk about that a little bit more in depth. When you start talking to this prospect, right, they're not a client yet, you let them know, hey, when you come on as a client, we have a support number, we have a support email address, we have a support portal, whatever that happens to be, and we have a process for you to follow to get help with us. And this is important for us because this allows the whole team to help versus you're not relying on just my own voicemail, kind of whatever that happens to be, something like that. Basically it says, hey, when you do this, the whole team can help you more than just waiting for me to help you, right? That's a very important thing. you have the conversation, the client eventually agrees, hey, let's come on board, let's do the thing, right? Well, then you list this out in your contracts, right? Support hours are from X to Y. This is how you get support. You call for emergencies and you email for everything else. Here's your portal. Like, have that lined out in your contract, so this is the second time they've been able to see it. And then as you onboard the client, have it in all of your onboarding literature. Have it in your kickoff onboarding call. Make sure the support number, support email address, the support process, how to get after hours support, what all of that looks like is extremely well defined and communicated at multiple levels within that organization, right? Make sure that the clients, as best as you possibly can, has heard it from you multiple times, right? You're not going to be able to tell them, hey, call the support number one time and expect them to all of a sudden magically understand exactly what to do, right? You need to tell them over and over and over again. You want to establish what that support process is over multiple modes of communication, over multiple days and weeks and months, right? So you do that first, right? That's the first piece. Then the second piece is you want to be consistent with the ongoing communication, right? All of your ticket templates, everything else talks about emailing support at, email or calling the phone number, the appropriate phone number, going to the portal, right? Those kinds of things. Your email signature should say something like, need help, ? Call this number. Need help, ? Email this email address, right? Make sure it's super obvious that they should be doing this when they need help from you and your company, right? Make that really, really obvious as early as you possibly can, and keep that consistent motion going where every time they turn around, they see an email from your company, they know that they should be following the support process because that's just the appropriate thing to do. That's what's going to get them the results they're looking for. If you're getting some value out of this video, please do me a favor, hit that like button down below. The next piece is you want to make it super easy, stupid easy for them to get help when they follow the process, right? Make that work. Make that process work. If it doesn't work, then of course they're going to find every reason to work their way around the process from you. So when they follow the directions, follow the process, it should be just painfully easy for them to get help, right? So do that, right? Get that locked in, make it as easy as possible. That's the first step, because we want to reward the good behavior and incentivize that good behavior versus shaking a stick at them every time they do it wrong. Now, of course, you're going to have to course correct and do some things. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but make it as easy as possible for them to follow the process, because the majority of your clients and the end users at your clients' offices will follow the right procedure if it gets them the result they're looking for, right? Usually what happens is if something doesn't go properly, or something doesn't go to their satisfaction, then they're trying to escalate, because that's just kind of how that typically works, right? So just make it easy for them. And then the next thing is all about giving them some feedback mechanism, right? That's your CSAT, that's your NPS, that's your doing a good client review. Like, give them an opportunity to tell you how you're doing. Give them an opportunity to give you the feedback. Hey, when I call your support number, I don't feel like I get the right help, right? Give them an opportunity to voice that feedback to you. Maybe it's real, maybe it's imagined, but it's important that you understand that that's what they're coming from. And you can either then help them reset the expectations then, you can go suss out an issue maybe with your team, or figure out if there's some other random thing that's going on, but give them the opportunity to give you some feedback along the way, and give them a little bit of a partnership in this conversation, so that way they feel like that you care about their opinion, even if maybe it's incorrect in your opinion, right? Give them an opportunity to give you some feedback. In addition to all of these videos that I record, I also release a newsletter about once a month that just give you some extra content, some extra thoughts, some things I'm observing in the industry, and just some additional content that might help you in your business. If you'd like to sign up for my newsletter, hit the link down below. I would love to have you join my newsletter. So you've created all the different processes, you've reinforced the good behavior, and you still have a client that won't follow the process. What do you do? Well, let's talk about some specific strategies for solving some of those things. So the first one is, client will not stop calling the tech, the account manager, the owner, whomever, when they want support. Well, the first thing is you should change your outgoing voicemail to say, if you are calling for support, please hang up and call this other number, right? That is a really important thing. Frankly, if you're able to have an opportunity where they can hit a number on their phone pad to have the call redirected to your service desk, so much the better. Make sure they understand that they called the wrong number for help. And when they call that wrong number for help and they inevitably leave a voicemail, I'm not dropping everything to go deal with it, but yes, of course you should deal with it. Open a ticket on their behalf, have your service desk call back out, even if that's you as a service desk manager, like you logged a ticket, you call them back, let them know, hey, you know what, you called me with my cell phone number. Here's the thing, if I was on a cruise, I wouldn't have got that call for 4 or 5 days. I have a team over here that can help you. Please call the right number. I've had plenty of MSPs eventually block clients from being able to call them. Like, this number continuously calls me on repeat. Block the number. That's probably a bit on the extreme side, but you know what? If you have a client that just won't follow the process, you might have to go that route. Eventually, if that whole client is behaving that way, you might have to fire the client. But the idea is that if they're not following the process, let them know they didn't follow the process. Still help them, but they probably get a little bit worse support for it, because you know what? Let's say you're busy in a meeting and you don't call them back for 3 or 4 or 5 hours or something like that. Look, they didn't follow the process. You told them they didn't follow the process. They know what this looks like. It's a little bit easier for you to say, you know what? We'll still help you, right? We're not giant a-holes, but we're not going to just drop everything when you don't follow the process. What happens when that client emails you, emails a tech, emails a account manager, looking for help, right? That's the next one. And this one might be a little bit easier than the voicemail one, where if they email into you, you set up in your PSA or maybe even an Outlook rule or whatever, that if you forward their email over to your ticketing system or a different box in Outlook that basically says, whoops, you did the wrong thing, you didn't follow the process, make a little bit of a joke about it, and then have that route into your support team, right? I know in one of my former MSPs, if we emailed, tickets at versus help at. Help was the client email, and if a client emailed me directly, if I emailed tickets at, it would basically do that, and it would strip off my the header information from my email and make it look like it came from the client. It will let the client know, hey, you emailed the person directly. That's not really the process, but we've got your ticket anyway, and it kind of lets them know what happened. Kind of, this isn't the process, and then you still take care of their issue. This whole process though relies on you responding to an email that maybe you're busy, or maybe you're on a cruise, maybe you're in meetings all day, right? There's probably a delay when they do that versus if they were to follow the process, right? So but you still have a mechanism to kind of make it easy for you, easy for your techs, easy for everybody in your company to say, if they didn't follow the process, this is just how we handle that. And then it just happened. Then the support process then picks up and runs with it, and the client gets notified. That's a really solid way of doing that. So what happens if a client is routinely on credit hold and they're continuing to call and try to get support, especially if it's their users that are calling, but the owner isn't paying? That's a conversation you're gonna have to have with that ownership and say, hey, look, you gotta pay. We're not working for free, right? We are not a nonprofit. We need you to pay your bill. And the client, and you need to let the end users know, hey, you know what? There's a little bit of issue on the back end. So we need to talk to the owner or whatever. You need to have that conversation with that owner. You might have to eject them as a client, right? Especially if they're repeatedly on that credit hold list. Yeah, I know that they're a really important client and you're letting the revenue go, but if they're not paying you, they're already not generating revenue for you. So have an established process for what that looks like. Follow that process. And this might be a situation where you have to eject client even if you don't really want to. This next one is a little bit more difficult, right? This is the client needs help after hours for truly an emergency, but they don't follow the support procedures. And one of two things happens. You see the issue because you're checking on a thing on the weekend or whatever, or you don't, and the client has an emergency for the next little bit, right? So, for example, let's say a client emails in for an issue over the weekend that is an emergency to them. Let's say your process is that if you email in on the weekend, we're not going to just respond, right? You have to call for an emergency on the weekend, right? It's a pretty normal thing. I've seen plenty of MSPs do something like this. So the first thing is, on the email reply, should say, hey, if you are emailing outside of business hours, and these are the business hours, and it's an emergency, pick up the phone, call us at this number, right? Those kinds of things. That should be part of that email response, right? So they have an opportunity to have a course correct on their own. If you happen to see the email, then again, kind of do the oops thing, right? You didn't follow the process. we're getting our on-call person working on the issue, or they'll respond back to you or whatever. But in the future, please make sure that you do this, because this just happened. We just happened to see this email, right? We just happened to see this communication from you that we may have missed it because this is not the process. The process is this, right? Like, reinforce that. At some point, if a client consistently does this and consistently calls for after-hours support or after-hours emergencies, and they're not following the process, you might have to let them be down for a little while, right? This is, again, is a little bit of make it easier for them to follow the process than is for them to try to subvert the process. So if they're emailing in and you're watching the ticket queue like a hawk, and the minute they email in that your on-call person know that they need to respond back to this thing, you're just reinforcing them to follow to not follow the process, to do it wrong. So let them have a little bit of pain. Make sure they understand that they did not follow the process, and they will get a better result when they do follow the process, right? Those are really important pieces. I've seen too many times where an MSP tried to be the nice guy, tried to be the nice person, and said, we'll just help you. We'll do, hey, sorry that we didn't, watch the email on the weekend, even though we told you we weren't going to watch the email on the weekend. Like make sure that you're reinforcing the good behavior. Help them out when you can, but don't drop everything always when they have this. Otherwise, they're going to just walk all over you with that. The next one is, what about when the client calls about their mail merge on a Sunday afternoon? The first thing I would recommend that you do is have some sort of after-hours support charge, right? If they're willing to pay time and a half for after-hours support for the stupid mail merge issue, cool. Then maybe you bill them time and a half, and you let your tech, you pay your tech a bit of a stipend on top of that. Cool. Everything that should be pretty happy for most folks. Maybe annoying, but if they're willing to pay for it, you're willing to charge them for it, and you're willing to charge them far more than your normal hourly rate. That's one way of handling it. And probably, if I was starting a new MSP today, I would probably start with that. I would just say, if you're calling me after hours, the fee is 1.5 times or 2x the normal hourly rate. Happy to help you, but you're going to pay for it, right? My time on the weekend is more valuable to me than my time during the week, typically, right? The second piece would be, hey, you know what, client, this is not an after-hours emergency thing, right? You're going to need to wait till to Monday, Tuesday, whatever the next business day is. This doesn't fall in the after-hours piece. And actually, I'm working on recording a whole video about after-hours support. Once that video is recorded, I'll link it above. So if you happen to watch this a week or so after I release this video, the link will be there. Otherwise, know that video is coming. But have a process around the basically say, hey, you know what? This isn't really an emergency. If it really is, you got to tell us why. And maybe we'll help you, but for the most part, you want to have that conversation and make sure that it's not that, hey, I'm just trying to do something now for the benefit of myself for the next week, because that, in my mind, is not an emergency. If you're able to handle that well and kind of like communicate that well, I think you're going to be fine. The repeated after hours calls with emergencies when they're not following the process, and this like mail merge on the weekend, don't happen all that often, or at least they shouldn't. So this is one of those things where course correct as much as you possibly can, and as long as you don't enable the bad behavior, it won't become a pervasive issue. You've created your process, you have some strategies for dealing with the bad behavior. Let's talk about making sure everybody's on the same page within your organization, right? This is a situation where your techs need to know what the process is when the client emails them directly. Your on-site engineers need to understand what the process is so that they're not getting pulled into things, right? This is your owners of the company, your account managers, everybody knows what the process is, and everybody follows the same process. Everybody has the same email signature that says, need help? Call this number. Need help? Email this, like something like that. Everybody's speaking the same language, and you don't work around the process yourself because a really important client called and they called me directly as the owner and I need someone to drop this. Like, no, force that through the process. Don't give your clients an end around every time they feel like they need a little bit extra help from you guys. Where following the process would have been just fine, right? Don't give them that opportunity, because then you're just teaching them to not follow the process that really is important for your business to grow and your business to scale. Building, communicating, and reinforcing your support processes will allow your business to scale. If you're looking for other ways to make your business scale, I'm going to throw a couple links above. The first one's going to be the evolution of your support team, and the other one's going to be the evolution of the owner's role within your organization, right? There's a number of things that happen over time, and things kind of shift as you grow. Those are important videos to watch and to understand for your business. Thanks for coming on this ramble with me. Hope to see you on the next one.